Hi everybody. Hey, sorry I couldn't make it in today. Got some other stuff I got to take care of, but I thought I would work through the practice test that you guys had and just kind of give you some answers here so that you can use those to be ready for your test. As you may have been told already, your test is now going to be on Thursday, not Wednesday. I want to make sure that I'm here for another day so we can kind of go over some things. So let's take a look at number one. Just writing down some answers here. If you're looking for the greatest common factor, you're going to factor out a 6x, so we write that number down, and then when you divide through by 6x, you get 2x minus 5. Now a good way to check these again is to multiply that out. If you distribute that 6x, 6x times 2x is 12x squared, 6x times negative 5 is negative 30x. That's what the original expression was, so that tells us that we are correct. Number 10, we are also using the GCF, and it looks like the only thing that goes into all those terms will be a 2, so we factor a 2 out of there, and they each have a y, so we take the smallest of the exponents out of there, so we're taking out a 2y cubed. What we're left with is 5y squared plus 18y minus 10. Now what we could try is to factor this down a little bit more. If you take 5 times negative 10, that's negative 50, and there is nothing that you can combine to get negative 50 that gives you positive 18. Therefore this is done. I'll move on to number 3. Number 3 is actually set up where it's kind of like factoring out by grouping. You see the m minus 5 there for both of those terms there. Well, what we can do is we factor out an m minus 5, and we're left with 7 minus 5m. And that is our answer. Number 4, there we are factoring by grouping. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and write out this entire expression. 2x cubed plus 8x squared plus 3x plus 12. So, as with anything else, I would look for a common factor. I do not see a common factor among everything here. So what I am going to do is take this first group, I can take a 2x squared out of there, and I'm left with an x plus 4. Out of the second group, I take a 3 out of it. I'm also left with x plus 4. Now out of this group, it's kind of like back to number 3, you see an x plus 4 here and an x plus 4 here. So we factor an x plus 4 out of there. What I'm left with is 2x squared plus 3. Now, kind of like I was saying with number 1, if you FOIL this out, if you multiply this all out, that should give you 2x squared plus 8x, 2x cubed plus 8x squared plus 3x plus 12. And that actually is what you would get if you multiply this out. Jumping over here to number 5. Factor by grouping again. I tell you what, I'll just go ahead and take out from the beginning there. If I factor out of the first group a 2x squared, I am left with 5x minus 3. Out of the second group, I'm going to take a negative 5 out of there, and I'm left with 5x minus 3 again. Subtract the x, there's the x. There you go. And out of that group, I am left with 5x minus 3 times 2x squared minus 5. Is it me, or is this the coolest YouTube video ever? Number 6. Kind of talked about this in class yesterday. When I see that coefficient of x squared as being 1, I'm just going to go ahead and set this up. And I'll look at that and say, all right, what can I get to get x squared? I can multiply x times x. What can I multiply to get 48 that I can combine to get 19? Well, I know 12 times 4 is 48, but that doesn't work. I also know 16 times 3 is 48. That's what's going to work. So x plus 16 and x plus 3. That's my answer. For number 7, same idea. I'm going to factor this down here. There is no common factor, so I'm past that step. And what would work there is n minus 8 times n minus 4. Number 8, again, there is no common factor, so I'll see what I can multiply here. B times B And I want to see what I can multiply to get to negative 90 that I can combine to get negative 1. And that will give me negative 10 and positive 9. Number 9. Now I'll just keep on going with some answers. That will be s plus 9 times s minus 2. And feel free, if I'm going way too fast here, feel free to stop or pause this or go back there if need be. Number 10. Now, there's one that's a little bit different. I do have a coefficient of x squared as being 3. So rather than using a guess and check, I'm going to take 3 times 15, that is 45. I'm going to try to figure out what I can multiply to get 45 that I can add to get 14. Sorry. That would be 9 and 5. So I'm going to split that middle term. I've got 3x squared plus 9x plus 5x plus 15. Out of that first group, I can factor 3x out of it, and I'm left with x plus 3. Out of the second group, I can also factor out, or I can factor out a 5, and I'm also left with x plus 3. There's our goal there. So that would factor down to x plus 3, take one of those out of there, and that is times 3x plus 5. Okay, picking up with number 11 here. We've got another one kind of like number 10, where you can just take 5 times negative 3, which is negative 15. I'm going to see what I can multiply to get negative 15 that I can add to get 2. And what would work there would be 5 times negative 3. So I'm going to split that middle term. I've got 5x squared plus 5x minus 3x minus 3. So I'm going to factor out of this first group, I'm going to factor 5x out of there. I'm left with x plus 1. Out of the second group, when that middle term is a negative, you probably want to be factoring out a negative 1. So I'm going to take not a negative 1, but a negative number. In this case, I'm going to factor negative 3 out of there, and again, I'm left with an x plus 1. So my common expression is x plus 1, and when I take one of those out of there, I'm left with 5x minus 3. So that's our answer for number 11. Number 12. Again, I'm looking for a common factor. I don't see one, so I'm going to take 4 times 25, which is 100. And then I'm going to see what I can multiply to get 100 that I can add to get negative 20. That would be negative 10 and negative 10. So I'm going to split this into 4x squared minus 10x minus 10x plus 25. Out of this first group, I'm going to take a 2x out of there. I'm left with 2x minus 5. Out of the second group, I'm going to take a negative 5 out of there, again leaving me with 2x minus 5, and that factors down to 2x minus 5 times 2x minus 5. Since we have the exact same expression, then we could also express that. You do not have to, but you could also express that as the quantity of 2x minus 5 squared. For number 13, the first thing we can do there is look for a common factor. I do not have a common factor there. So I'm going to take 6 times 20, which is 120. I'm going to see what I can multiply to get 120 that I can add to get negative 23. Well, that would be negative 8 and negative 5. Or I'm sorry, negative 8 and negative 15. So I'm going to write this as 6x squared. I'll just do this since I already have this written. Minus 8x minus 15x plus 20. So out of this first group, I'm going to take a 2x out of there. I'm left with 3x minus 4. Out of the second group, I'm going to take a negative 5 out of there. Again, I'm left with 3x minus 4. And usually, a good hint that you're not doing this right, if these two are not the same, then either you can't factor it or you did something wrong. And chances are you did something wrong. So that will be 3x minus 4 times 2x minus 5. All right. Number 14. Having some fun now. Again, no common factor, so I'm going to take 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. See what I can multiply to get negative 8 that I can add to get negative 7, and that would be negative 8 and positive 1. So I'll split that. I've got 4x squared minus 8x plus 1x minus 2. Out of the first group, I'm taking a 4x out of there, leaving me with x minus 2. Out of the second group, the only thing I can do there is take a 1 out of there. Makes it easy. I'm left with x minus 2. So my answer would be x minus 2 times 4x plus 1. Number 15, our last one I'll put on this paper here. I'm going to take negative 2 times negative 30. Take negative 2 times negative 30, that is 60. So I can multiply to get 60 to get 17. And that would be 12 and 5. So I'm going to split this up in 2. And I know some of you, most of you have been actually doing this. I know initially I talked about taking a negative 1 out of there, but a lot of you have not been doing that, so I'll just stick with what you've been doing. I've got negative 2x squared. What did I say? 15 and 2, right? Yep, so plus 15x plus 2x. And then my last term was negative 30. I'm sorry, no, that was not 15 and 2. I need to get rid of that. Sorry about that. That was 12 and 5, silly. So negative 2x squared plus 12x plus 5x. And then my last term is negative 30. We're all human. Out of this first group, I'm going to take, I don't like that being a negative there, so I'm going to take a negative 2x out of there, leaving me with x minus 6 since I took a negative out of there. I want to be left with an x minus 6 here. If I take a positive 5 out of here, that would also leave me with x minus 6. And my answer would be x minus 6 times negative 2x plus 5. Alright, on to number 16. Number 16, we look for a common factor. There is not a common factor. So, if you take a look at that, you do have two terms, which we look for what? Very good, the difference of squares. That factors down to c plus 5 times c minus 5. Didn't think I could hear you, did you? I hear you. I see you. Number 17, you can take an x to the 4th out of there first of all. So you're left with 4 minus 49x squared. Oop, make that next. And then out of that group, we can factor that down. That's still a difference of squares. So this x to the 4th stays there. That factors down to 2 plus 7x times 2 minus 7x. Number 18. Looking at that, let's see, there's a y and everything there, and they're all even, so we can take a 2y out of that expression. And when we do so, we have 6x squared plus 11x plus 3. Okay? Now, I'm going to try to see if there's anything I can multiply to get, here I've got a trinomial still, so let's try to factor this down. If I take 6 times 3, that's 18. I want to see if there's anything I can multiply to get 18 that I can add to get 11. And actually there is, there's 9 and 2 there, isn't it? Yes, there is. So I've got the 2y here, that just stays out there. I'm going to split that 11x into, we said 9 and 2. I'll write this down, 9 times 2. So into 9x plus 2x plus 3. Okay, so out of this first group I can factor, I get the 2y outside of there. I can factor a 3x out of here, and I'm left with 2x plus 3. Out of that second group I can only factor a 1 out of there, and again I'm left with a 2x plus 3. So the 2y's here. Out of this whole group here, again we're back to factoring by grouping here, so that factors down to 2x plus 3 times 3x plus 1. Okay? Number 19. I can factor a 4y out of there. Hopefully you did that. I know that actually is a difference of squares, like 4 and 36 are both squares. We still need to take the y out of there. So what we've got left is x squared minus 9, which factors down even more to x plus 3 times x minus 3. Number 20. Looking for a common factor. I can factor 5 out of there. I'm left with x squared minus 7x plus 12. We have a trinomial. So out of that trinomial, that actually factors down. And this is one of those where you have a coefficient of x squared being 1. So the 5 stays here. I'm going to say, all right, x times x gives me x squared. What can I multiply to get 12 that I can add to get negative 7? That would be minus 4 and minus 3. That's not a 3. That would be minus 4 and x minus 3. Number 21, we can take a 4x squared, factor 4x squared out of there, leaving us with 4x squared minus 9. Alright, which that factors down, again, a difference of squares. We seem to have a lot of difference of squares. 2x plus 3 times 2x minus 3. And last but certainly not least, number 22. I hate to put an end to this. We can factor a 3 out of there. Factor 3 out of there. That leaves us with 3x squared minus 16. Now once we get to that point, we almost have a difference in squares, but you can't square anything to get that 3. So that actually is your answer. I hope to be back tomorrow, so hopefully we will get a chance to go over all of this. In the meantime, have a tremendous day. Bye-bye.